Hello and welcome to another Warhammer game Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I would like to say a big thank you to Dale Blakeman for sending in some awesome pictures of his classic Cadians. Absolutely love this colour scheme. I've said it before, I'm a sucker for a well done classic colour scheme, especially with Imperial Guard. And I just have to say, these are really well done. My inner Mordian loves it. They're so crisp, they're so clean. Just the way a proper guard regiment should be. So thank you for sending these pictures in, Dale. If anyone else wants to send some pictures in for me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. Or you can email them to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. So last week I was emailed by a Patreon supporter called Obscurian. Trying to do a bit more on my Patrons, answering messages, all that kind of stuff. Just trying to be much better at it because I've been not very good at it, and I want to give back to you guys a little bit, to at least answer some messages, So I was messaged by Obscurian, and he said, "Have I ever had a look at Bulgarian bodyguards and how they might work with while we stand, we fight?" And I thought that is a really good question because I had kind of considered this sort of briefly in the beginning of 9th, but I hadn't really looked into it properly. I'd sort of gone, yeah, that sounds like it kind of works, but it got me thinking, and I had a little thought. Although I've been thinking thoughts my whole life, look where that's got me. But had a little thought, and I realised that while we stand, we fight could be a really good secondary for pure infantry and Imperial Guard. Another feather in the cap, another notch on the bedpost to say that this may be the best way of running the Imperial Guard in a tournament, in a competitive scene. So for those that don't know what While We Stand We Fight is, it's a secondary objective. You take it alongside things like, it's in the same category as Thin the Ranks and stuff like that. And essentially what happens is you look at your army list and you take the 3 models, okay, the 3 models which have the highest points value, okay, and as long as those models are alive, at the end of the game you get 15 points. If 2 of them are alive, you get 10 points. If one of them's alive, you get 5 points. If none of them are alive, you get no points. So the point is your 3 most valuable models have to live, and if they do, then good times. Now, in a hybrid guard army or in a tank guard army, this is a terrible objective because it's more than likely going to be your tank commanders, and let me tell you, the enemy's going to be gunning for them tank commanders. So they're going to die anyway, and you've got no way of screening them or hiding them. If you want to spend CP to keep them off the board, then you could be keeping 600 points of the stuff at the board. It just starts getting silly. It just starts not really working. So I've seen some people use it with Tau though. May the Emperor smite the Xeno scum. But I have seen some people use it with some effect with Tau Riptides because they're so goddamn durable with drones and stuff. But in the Guard, you don't really want your big ass tanks being the things that the enemy is going to kill, because they're going to kill them anyway. And then not only do they get points for maybe tank hunter, but then they're also denying you 5 points for blowing them up. So on a tank army, it just doesn't work, unfortunately. But on a pure infantry guard army, it's a different story. Now, when I mean pure infantry, I'm talking about pure guardsmen. Maybe not adding in any Bulgarians or anything like that. But maybe, my first instinct on this was just when you're running, the 240 men on foot. Okay. Now, those individual models in those squads, they're not very expensive. I mean, it's like 5 points for a guardsman, right? Even with the heavy weapons team, you're looking at 10 points plus the heavy weapon. Even if it's like a lascar, that's 25 points. So your most viable models in your pure infantry will come down to your characters. Okay? Now, those, your company commander, he's a viable model. But you don't want the enemy going after him, and you don't want to have to try and hide him because you might need him to be doing orders and stuff. But you could do something like that. But Ogren bodyguards are a really interesting way of doing this because they're quite durable. The problem with putting it on the problem with putting it on a company commander is that he's going to be a target anyway, and he's not that hard to kill. If the enemy managed to get an assassination unit in there, or has some kind of sniper or something, it's not that difficult to get rid of a company commander. But an Ogrin or Bulgrin bodyguard, they're pretty durable. I mean, I've got the stats for them in front of me now, and at 50 points, first off, it's 50 points, and you get your toughness 5 guy, but he's got 6 wounds. That's really good. 6 wounds, toughness 5. You can easily get on him a 2+ armor save because you can just give him the slab shield. Now you could start putting your relic like the Death Mask of Orleans Pious and giving him Feel No Pain and stuff like that. That is possible as well. But even if you just take 3 Ogre Bodyguards, it's 150 points. If you want to give them a better weapon than the Ripper Gun, you can, but you don't really need to because there's no other model in your army that's greater than 50 points. Unless you're taking special characters or whatnot. But the point is that you spend 150 points, and that's literally 150 points to get yourself potentially 15 victory points. That's pretty sweet. And you can leave them off the board for a couple of turns. They're not giving you any buffs. They're not really needed on the battlefield at all. They just need to sit there and look pretty. And I know some of you say, but why would you spend 150 points on stuff that's not going to do anything? Well, the point is that it is doing something. It is literally you're spending 150 points to almost guarantee getting 15 victory points. Okay. Now I don't know. I have read this. I've read the secondary a few times, and it says models. Now, if for some reason it means units, this starts getting a little tricky, obviously, because your Ogre Bodyguard, I think the most you can spend on him is sort of like 55 points, and then that's only the same price as a Guardsman squad, with a special weapon. So just to cover my ass in case it turns out that these things, while we fight, it does actually mean for units. It's still potentially a good secondary, but you just have to be a bit more clever about it. Okay, so for example, you can start looking at things like Commissar Yarrick. Okay, he's 105 points, so he is a bit more expensive, and this sort of leads me on to, you could do, so before we go down that route, let me just rewind slightly. Sorry for the jumble, guys, but I'm kind of excited about this video because it's really got good implications for my army. You could do the same thing with Bulgrin Bodyguards, but do it with Lord Commissars instead. Okay, now your Lord Commissars, they are 40 points basic, so they are your more expensive models in your army, and they don't need to be on the battlefield. They don't need, and they literally, you just take them because you're filling out your HQ slots, because you're going to be taking 3 battalions in a pure infantry army because you want your 18 troop choices. So having these Lord Commissars is actually a cheaper way of doing the same thing. You save 30 points. Now, like I said, if there is something that I've misunderstood, and it has to be units, not models, then we start getting a bit clever about it. And so you start looking at things like Commissar Yarrick. Now, Commissar Yarrick, he's an expensive choice, but what he does is you're going to be taking an HQ choice anyway, because you need to, because it's pure infantry, right? So if you're going to take Commissar, you might as well take one of your HQ choices and upgrade him, and then so you're not spending 105 points, you're spending an additional 65 points that you were going to spend anyway. So it's slightly easier pill to swallow. If you're going someone like Katachan, okay, you can take Strachan, right? So Strachan is, I believe he's 80 points now, so he's going to be still more expensive than any of your infantry squads that you'll be taking. So again, he qualifies for While We Stand, We Fight. Easy peasy kind of thing. And there's a few other characters you can do it with as well. You've got people like Creed. You could take a mix. If you took multiple detachments and gave them different regiments, you could take a Cadian detachment as a fire support platoon for holding the back line and take Creed in there. And Creed becomes one of your While We Stand We Fights. And then you've got Strachan in the other one, and you've got Yarrick in another one. Okay, so there's that way of doing it. So you can still. So I'm throwing that out there. Like I said, I've triple checked this, but you know, it's so difficult to keep up to date with 40k things these days because they're constantly tweaking and FAQing and errataing, and sometimes you do videos and it's wrong. You don't mean you've done all the research in the book. It says what it is, but you know, but that is a video for another day talking about how it's difficult to keep up with 40k these days. But from what I can see, summarising the video, guys. It looks like in a pure infantry army, you could just take your Lord Commissars, and they're just 40 points. They're the most expensive individual models in your army, and they count for while we stand, we fight. And you just leave them off the board. Turn 1, turn 2, you bring them on turn 3, you just bring them on in your own deployment zone. You just hide them. And the enemy's got a really tricky time of getting rid of those 3 Lord Commissars. That's the cheap way of doing it, because you're literally spending no additional points. But those Lord Commissars are relatively easy to kill. And like I said, the other option is you spend an additional 150 points, which, you know, on top of the Lord Commissars that you'd be taking anyway, for the Ogre and Bodyguards. And they're much more difficult to kill. So I'm going to try it out both ways. I've got the models for both. I'm going to try it out both with, you know, hopefully might get a game or two in with someone in my support bubble, if that's possible. We'll see how, you know, got to keep an eye on these things with the old Rona rampaging around. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see which one works out best. But I think it's a really good opportunity for Pure Infantry Guard to, again, it's another feather in the cap. And what that means is you can turn up to the battlefield with raise the banners, great one, engage north fronts, move that bad boy, and then while we stand we fight, and you don't have to engage with your enemy in any way, shape or form. You can just get maximum secondaries without even having to kill the enemy. And then you can focus on primary, which is what your list is good at doing anyway. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If I've got this totally wrong, please let me know. I'll leave the video up as a testament to how, you know, everyone makes mistakes. But please let me know down in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed this video, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.